Hello everybody, welcome to my series on tips, advice and information on all things educational. Today I'm going to give you 10 tips on how to get your children better at following instructions. But first, let's look at some of the reasons why children may not be very good at following instructions. It could simply be a matter of the child not understanding the instruction and they think it's safer to refuse to do something. Another possible reason is that maybe when the child refuses to do something or doesn't comply, they get lots of attention. It could also be that the child is used to controlling the situations around him and he's used to doing what he wants and he's not happy to receive instructions. So let's look at the various strategies we can use to get them better at doing what's asked of them. So make sure your child understands what is being asked of them by giving simple one-step instructions. You will also need to allow time for processing what you're actually asking. A visual timetable is a really good example of doing this. For example, if you want your child to pick up toys on their bedroom floor, you could do a visual timetable, 3 boxes, first, then and next. So I've drawn pictures, but you may want to take photographs. So my first picture is of the child picking up the toys. The second one is putting them away in their toy box. And the third one is something I know they really like to do, such as using the iPad. So you're sort of giving them a little dangling the carrot to make them do the activity you want them to do first of all. As they do the activity, I would then remove the activity and then they know that's done and they can move on to the next thing. That's a really clear visual way of explaining to the child what you want them to do. This can be used at home and in the classroom. Tip number 2 is to give your child a choice so they can choose between 2 activities. That way they feel as if they're in control. So for example, if I wanted a child to read a book and write their name in an afternoon, I might say, okay, you have 2 choices, you can choose. It's either read a book or write your name. And they might say, iPad. And you don't say no, you just say, read a book or write your name. You choose. And they might say again, iPad. And you just repeat yourself over and over again. Read a book or write your name, it's your choice. And then eventually, if they're not agreeing to do either, I normally say, okay then, if you can't choose, I'll choose. Then often, begrudgingly, they might say, oh, read a book. Tip number 3 is maybe to have a tambourine or some bells handy. And this strategy can be used both in the classroom and at home, especially if you've got a child who doesn't want to stop what they're doing. So you might say, when I shake my tambourine, you have 5 minutes left before you have to tidy up. That's just to give them that advance warning, and then mentally they can prepare for the fact that they're going to have to stop doing something. Tip number 4 is to use an egg timer to give visual clues as to how long they have to do something or when an activity is coming to an end. A sound timer is really good because they can watch the sound trickle down and they know that the time they have to do something is getting shorter and shorter. This might be good, for example, if you say, okay, you can have 5 minutes now on your iPad. So you turn the sound time over and they can watch the time trickling away. And it doesn't come as a shock to them when you say, okay, you have to stop now. Tip number 5 is choosing to ignore your child if it's doing something you don't want it to do on purpose. Instead, I would just say, when you finish your reading, I will sit and play a game with you, for example. And you would just keep repeating this statement until the child eventually got the message and did what you wanted them to do. You may want to also give them a reward when they do something like a sticker. Often works wonders. Tip number 6 might be checking out your child's hearing. It could be simply that they are not hearing your instructions. Always say their name first before you say the instruction. That can trigger their listening skills. Tip number 7 is really useful for both the classroom and at home, and it's something called a social story. Basically, it's teaching a child behaviours you want them to do. So here I've got an example of one. You could make this into a little book, and it's a really nice idea to have a front cover page with the child's photograph. So this book is for a little boy called Kai who doesn't want to brush his teeth after his tea. So I've written a little story in the third person because Kai cannot read, so I'm going to read it to him. Kai needs to brush his teeth after tea. And I've put some very simple little pictures. If you're in school, you might be able to use widgets, but if not, don't worry, you can just draw simple diagrams. I then give Kai the reason. This will make Kai have shiny white teeth. Kai will be happy. And then I talk about how it will make me feel. Mummy will be happy because Kai will have a lovely smile. So I would read this to Kai, not when he's having a tantrum about not wanting to clean his teeth, but just at times throughout the day. And eventually you'll find that the child will say it with you. And hopefully they will then start doing what you want them to do. But this strategy is really good for children who have difficulty processing language. It's done in very simple words, and there are pictures to support what you're saying. This is a little timetable, and this is really a very useful record of times when your child is not following instructions. So if you're in the classroom, you could divide it up into the different sessions. And here I've included playtime and lunchtime, because that can be quite a common time for children not to follow instructions. And then you can give them a smiley face or a sad face or a face in between, depending on how compliant they are. And that way you'll get to see times of the day or activities of the day that instruction following is difficult. So you could in fact write the lesson you were doing, or if you're at home you might write the activity you're asking the child to do. Another way you can do this is you can, instead of using smiley faces, you can choose something that the child is really interested in. For example, it might be dinosaurs. So you could get some clip art dinosaurs from the computer and print them off, and then they can stick a dinosaur on each time they make the right choice. Tip number 9 is to have a photo prompt. So for example, if you're in the classroom and you want the child to sit properly with their legs crossed and their hands in their laps, you can take a photograph when they are doing this, and then you can place it in front of them so it's a reminder that each time they sit on the carpet they're expected to sit in a certain way. But you can do this with anything. It may be that at the dinner table you want them to use their knife and fork rather than their fingers, so you can take a photo of them doing that. Tip number 10 is to seek advice from other people. You might want to talk to the class teacher, who may then pass you over to the inclusion person, or you may want to have a word with your GP or even the school nurse. None of these tips are probably going to work straight away. You're going to have to give them time, and it will take lots of perseverance, but you might just find it helps a little. But I hope this has been useful, and it would be lovely if you could subscribe to my channel. It would be really helpful, and there will be lots more tips and advice coming along soon. But bye bye for now. Bye.